That was better. That was better.
I could have done better than that. It was so. I did it. You know what? Let's listen to some music. I've done better.
Let's put some jazz.
R&B.
No. Yeah, maybe.
No, just anything from Louisiana. So remote. Oh.
Are they from?
What do you think about most I felt so
Well,
Most of the patches I
Okay,
sold.
for you.
I'm just getting coffee.
It's my house though, but
14 patches this year.
Sorry? Okay. That's good.
no.
Yes, yes.
You're saying opera did not create jazz, did it?
I always tell people we know that New Orleans is the birthplace of jazz, but people don't know that it's also the birthplace of opera in America. New Orleans had the first opera season in all of North America in 1796. And from 1796 to 1919, we had 5 opera houses. The powers that be from France said we should send culture into the city so that people will want to stay. And so they started bringing in the balls and opera and classical music. And the story is that the women used to leave home, walk through all this muck and the mosquitoes and all that stuff in their regular clothes. And when they got to the theater, there was a place where they could wash their legs and feet and then get dressed in their finery for the ball or for the opera. So it gave people something to look forward to and something to do that was fun. There were so many classical musicians that came from this environment that in 1840 we formed the first independent orchestra in New Orleans, and it was 100 men, mostly free men of color. They formed the Philharmonic Society. They also built their own theater, which that building still stands. It's in a little bit of disrepair at the corner of Elysian Fields and Dauphine, Théâtre de la Renaissance. Mon Pauvre Coeur was published in 1852, and even though it's in French, I consider it to be the first blues song. Because he's in love with someone that's not in love with him. He's saying, I'm admiring this sweet Creole woman on the balcony, and if she would only quench the fire that's in my poor heart. But of course she doesn't. And so later on he says, I just feel so bad, I just want to die. But if I die, would you come put some flowers on my grave? So that's about as bluesy as you get, right?
I found out what she was talking about.
But it's beautifully written.
That's interesting.
After the Civil War, so here we had been performing in these theaters, all these 5 opera houses. We performed over 200 operas, made their American premiere in New Orleans. We were playing all this music. We had accomplished all of these things, and we got together at what's now the Roosevelt Hotel. Interesting, it was called Mechanics Institute at the time, for a meeting to discuss our delegates to vote in our own people to the Louisiana legislature. And a mob of whites broke in and started killing people left and right. And, but we came back again, and then we voted our people in, and we had a new legislature with civil rights. And at that time, men got the right to vote. We had integrated schools, integrated buses. We'd done all the right things that people had to come back again and get. But then a mob overtook the state capitol, and then when they took back the state capitol, they instituted what we now call the Jim Crow laws: segregation, no right to vote, all of those things. So at this point in time, Victor Eugene McCarthy, the first composer I mentioned, purchased the ticket at the French Opera House, and he purchased the ticket in what would have been previously the white section. They sold him the ticket. He went and he sat down, and even though he did not look so much as of African descent, he was known because he was a composer and organizer of concerts, and someone decided to kick him out. So all of the people of color that had been buying opera tickets said, we aren't buying any more tickets this season. We had economically broke them. And so these singers that they bought in from France, they didn't have the money to send them back. That's protest, right? But being the people we are, Victor Eugene McCarthy and Basile Barre got together and organized a benefit
I thought
concert
Plessy
just
versus
for the
Ferguson was
singers,
first.
and gave
Yeah,
them
right.
the money so they could get back.
Wasn't that in the history books?
But economic protest was first in New Orleans in 1869, okay, which may have been the first protest in the country. Victor Eugene McCarthy also went on to file a lawsuit. The lawsuit was filed in 1869 for $1,500 in damages, would have been $35,000 today. But we were definitely ahead of the time in terms of fighting for civil rights. And it all started with being kicked out of an opera house. Even after all of this civil rights and Jim Crow laws, people were still determined to present their skills in opera and classical music. It went on to Economy Hall. It affected the birth of jazz. Louis Armstrong was a big opera fan. There are connections between what they call coloratura singing in opera, where there's a whole lot of notes, a lot of movement of the notes, and his development of scat. And so our opera tradition continued and into the Pythian Theater, temple, which was restored in 2017 on the corner of Loyola and Gravier, 7-story building built by a former slave. On the second floor, they had a theater where they presented classical music. On the roof, they had a jazz band. And now we have composers like filmmaker Terence Blanchard writing opera. Terence Blanchard ended up becoming the first Black opera composer presented by the Metropolitan Opera in New York, all of these years later. I want people to know this work. It's a great tradition here, and it's an example of we can never put ourselves or other people in boxes and think, oh, because they're Black, they don't do this or they don't like that. Because they're Latina, they don't do this, they don't like that. We can't do that. But we have a full experience of everything in New Orleans, and it's my mission to continue to tell these stories and hopefully inspire young people to be who they're supposed to be, right? Don't let people tell you what you're supposed to like, what you're supposed to do. You have to follow your heart and follow your passion.
That was interesting.
You're right. I wonder what happened if opera wasn't a thing.
No idea.